Propaganda has always been Vladimir Putin's strongest weapon to control Russia beyond the tanks and missiles he sends to Ukraine. His true army is made of voices, hosts, columnists, and media figures who fill the nation. Television, radio, and newspapers with stories of Russian greatness. Reports about Ukraine victories are almost never shown. That's how Putin keeps the illusion alive. But what happens when one of his own mouthpieces starts breaking that illusion? The answer may be Putin's worst nightmare. Because one of his most loyal propagandists just admitted something the Kremlin never wanted the public to hear: Ukraine will never fall. That man is Vladimir Solovyov, one of the most well-known voices on Russian state TV. Almost every night, he appears before millions of viewers passionately declaring that Ukraine is collapsing and that Russia's triumph is only days away. But on October 13th, something changed. Solovyov appeared unusually quiet, his tone heavier than ever before. As reported by Euromaidan Press, he seemed visibly shaken when he said words that Putin could never have predicted coming from him. We underestimated what's happening. We thought NATO was only sending finished products, but now their military industry is working outside Ukraine. Our strikes are not decisive. Foreigners are actively joining Ukraine ranks. There should be no illusions. Those few sentences carried enormous weight. Solovyov, one of Putin's most trusted defenders, was openly admitting that Russia war is far from the easy victory he once promised. His confession exposes a reality that the Kremlin has been desperate to hide. The Russian army has no clear answer to Ukraine's growing power, even though Solovyov still tried to fit his words into the official narrative by blaming NATO. It's obvious that something deeper is bothering him. His remarks suggest that Ukraine is far stronger and more capable than the propaganda machine ever told the Russian people. Interestingly, this isn't the first time Solovyov has hinted at frustration with Russian military. Back in February 2023, a year after the invasion began, he publicly questioned the country's strategy, asking on his show, "Are we going to fight? And if so, with what and with whom?" He criticized the constant losses, the poor equipment, and the lack of proper rotation for soldiers, but that earlier frustration was still loyal. It was meant as a wake-up call for Russia to fight harder. What happened on October 13th was different this time. Solovyov wasn't angry, he was defeated. His voice carried no fire, no confidence, only the acknowledgement that Ukraine is far stronger than Russia ever expected. For Putin, hearing such words from his star propagandist must have been a bitter moment. The man who once helped shape the image of Russia's strength had just revealed the truth: the special military operation is falling apart. Even more troubling for the Kremlin, Solovyov isn't alone. Other key media figures are also beginning to speak out. Tatiana Montyen, another well-known Kremlin voice, recently admitted that Russia doesn't have enough manpower to win. She warned that unless the ongoing campaign succeeds, another wave of mass mobilization would be unavoidable. Around the same time, Pavel Gubarev, once a top pro-Russian leader in Donetsk, went even further. He stated bluntly that Russia's losses are incomparably heavy and that the current system is incapable of achieving victory. These cracks in the propaganda wall show how badly the war has turned for Putin. Reports now say Russia advance slowed drastically in September, with territorial gains dropping by nearly half compared to August. Even the so-called summer offensive that was supposed to bring major success has collapsed. The truth is out: Russia forces are exhausted, its soldiers demoralized, and its leadership confused. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to grow stronger in ways Russia never imagined. When the war began in 2014, Ukraine army had only about 130,000 members, barely 6,000 of whom were combat-ready. Most of their tanks and aircraft were outdated with almost no modern equipment. But by 2022, Ukraine had completely transformed. Years of training, Western support, and sheer determination turned its military into a serious fighting force. Today, Ukraine has over 1 million active soldiers, making it one of the largest armies in Europe. The difference isn't just in numbers. These soldiers are battle-hardened, disciplined, and now equipped with advanced technology. Ukraine military is 4 times the size of the next largest European force outside of Russia. And then their Ukraine defense industry, a revolution that even Putin intelligence agencies failed to predict. When the invasion began, Ukraine produced only about 10% of its own weapons. 2 years later, that figure had risen to 35%, and by mid-2025, President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that 40% of the weapons used on the battlefield were made inside Ukraine. By September, that number had grown again to 60%. That means most of the weapons Ukraine soldiers use are homegrown: missiles, drones, armored vehicles, all being produced faster and better than ever before. Zelensky himself said that Ukraine is now creating some of the most advanced weapons in its history. Even as Russia continues to bombard Ukrainian cities, the defense industry there is booming. Factories are producing new types of drones, artillery, and missile systems every month. In just the first half of 2025, Ukraine increased its domestic defense spending by over $4 billion. For 2026, they plan to invest around $35 billion in local missile and drone manufacturing. This isn't just survival, isn't happening in isolation, it also building powerful Partnerships with its allies Denmark and Poland, for example, are helping Ukraine produce advanced drones. Poland is part of a European initiative to deliver millions of artillery shells to Ukraine, while American companies like Auterion are working with Ukrainian engineers to develop new drone systems. This mix of local and international production makes Ukraine defense network nearly impossible for Russia to destroy. Solovyov was right about one thing: Ukraine allies play a big role, but what he didn't admit is that Ukraine itself has become the core of that strength. The country's ability to produce its own weapons, innovate quickly, and collaborate globally has made it far more resilient than anyone expected. Putin war, which was supposed to crush Ukraine, has instead forced it to evolve into a military powerhouse. And now Ukraine battlefield strategies are smarter than ever. Instead of trying to match Russia soldier for soldier, Ukraine focuses on precision strikes and drone warfare. In 2025 alone, Ukraine long-range attacks have crippled nearly 40% of Russia oil refining capacity, causing fuel shortages and economic damage deep inside Russian territory. The new Flamingo missile, capable of hitting targets over 1,800 miles away, is already in mass production. It can reach Moscow itself. These weapons, along with powerful drones, have turned Ukraine into a nightmare for Russia. Military reports say drones alone now account for around 80% of Russian casualties in the war, a staggering number that shows how much the battlefield has changed. Ukraine learned early that it could never win through traditional strength, so it built a new kind of warfare based on intelligence, data, and innovation. Every week new types of drones appear on the front line, faster, lighter, and deadlier than before. Some are made with 3D printed parts, others are assembled in underground workshops by volunteers and engineers who work day and night to keep production alive. Ukrainian commanders now rely on AI-driven mapping tools that track Russian troop movements in real time, allowing precision strikes with minimum losses. The efficiency of these operations has stunned military experts around the world. Western analysts now say Ukraine has created one of the most advanced drone networks ever used in modern warfare. While Russia still depends on outdated Soviet tactics, Ukraine constantly adapts its playbook, transforming every setback into a lesson learned. This flexibility has become its biggest strength. Even Russian soldiers captured on the battlefield have admitted that they never know where the next strike will come from. The sound of drones alone has become a psychological weapon, spreading fear across Russian trenches. Behind every successful attack there is not only Western support, but also Ukrainian creativity. Engineers in Kiev and Lviv work with startups from Europe and the United States to design systems that can jam Russian radars and extend drone range further into occupied territory. What once started as desperation has now evolved into dominance, proving that innovation and willpower can defeat even the largest army in the world. Ukraine now has the capacity to produce up to 10 million drones a year, depending on available funding. This massive shift means Russia is no longer fighting a traditional army, it's facing a fully modernized force powered by innovation, technology, and global cooperation. In the end, Solovyov, reluctant confession, says it all. He tried to blame NATO, but deep down he knows the truth. Russia's invasion has transformed Ukraine into something far stronger than Putin ever imagined. Ukraine may never fall, and if it does, it would take such a heavy toll on Russia that the country could be left weakened for generations as Russia struggles to keep its economy and military alive. Another quiet threat is rising in the Far East. Chinese and North Korean influence over Russian territories. Putin empire is slowly shrinking, and his propaganda machine is beginning to crumble from within. The voices that once protected him are now revealing his failures to the world. This war was meant to be over in a week. Nearly 4 years later, it has become the slow unraveling of Russia power and the rise of a nation that refuses to bow down.